Bonjour à tous.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the 6th edition of the ID Forum, an event which we founded in 2019 without realizing that COVID was coming for us the following year and that our remote conferencing was going to become so important and the digital identity wallets were going to become increasingly important. We were hoping that it would, and we couldn't imagine how quickly that change would come about. Nowadays, the digital identity wallet is established in all of countries around the world. Digital identity is an established reality. And this year, we're going to talk about a particularly pertinent subject, the digital identity wallet, and specifically the European Union's EU digital identity wallet. As you may know, last year was the year in which the European Union passed the new legislations, EIDAS 2, aimed at putting in place a system of digital identity wallets and to encourage a broader use of digital identities and also of data and services associated with it, both in the public sector and also in the private sector, which is increasingly regulated, much more so than it was in the past. So, a day which is entirely given over to this subject in this room. The legislation has now been passed. A lot of promises have been made. Some particularly wonderful things have been promised in terms of user experience, privacy, security, potentiality. And we are now on the road towards implementation, which is obviously the much more difficult step. So we need to make certain difficult decisions, compromises. We all need to be in an agreement. We need to have 27 EU member states in agreement on the subjects. Those are the subjects that we're going to be tackling today. And as always, we start with France. And, well, who better place to talk to us about that than after these few words of introduction, Madame Anne-Gaelle Baudoin, Director of France-Titres, the agency responsible for the digital identity wallet. I'm very pleased to have you with us, Anne-Gaelle, and we'll also continue immediately after Anne-Gaelle's introductory words with a roundtable discussion on the European digital identity wallet as it applies to France, and then another roundtable session at the end of the morning about client experience, user experience, and the user experience for identity matters, for transport, for payments, the comprehensive look at the user experience, the expectations that users have, and bridging the gap between more sort of government-focused perspective and the more transactional, user-oriented use, and are those objectives compatible? And then this afternoon, we'll move on to talk about another particularly pertinent subject, which is the security and the securitization of digital identity. I don't have to tell you just how important that is. We all suffer cyber attacks every day now. There'll be spam emails, transaction interception. So obviously, that subject is more pressing now than ever, and that's what we'll be talking about in the beginning of this afternoon. We'll then continue with another roundtable discussion on the new digital trust solutions. We're talking about certifications, what's data certification, data attestation. We'll also talk about other trust securing services. And at the end of the afternoon, we'll have a big roundtable discussion about Europe with a particular special guest, a representative of the Polish government, who have already made some great progress in terms of implementation of digital identity wallet in their country. And we'll also have a representative of the European Commission. So an opportunity for you all to ask your questions and to compare and contrast different subjects and perspectives from different. We'll also have representatives of at least two European digital identity conforms, Potential and EWC. They'll be here today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mélanie Bénard-Crozat, who, as last year and previous years, has done us the honour of being our moderator for today. Thank you very much. I think a round of applause, please, for Guy de Funcourt.
l'applaudir pour son mot d'introduction.
For those that welcome the introductory speech, but also for all the work he does and the work he has done over the 6 previous editions, because Guy has been the driving force between putting together this forum and bringing together this digital identity community over the past 6 years. So thank you very much, Guy, also for the trust you've placed in me. It's always a great pleasure to be with you and to be back again in the room with these representatives of this digital identity community here in Lille. We're going to start by talking about France, as you said, and I will be back with you this afternoon to talk about the European dimension. But to get us started, please welcome to the stage Anne-Gaelle Baudoin.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Prefect. It's our honour to open up the session, and you are going to stay with us, I believe, for the grand table session afterwards. So, Guy Funko has already mentioned you are the General Director of France-Titres, that is interministerial directives for the French digital identity programme. So let's talk about the current state of things in France. There's a bit of chauvinism here. In recent years, we've watched and the progress, the advancement of the digital identity in France. What can you tell us, what can you tell our guests here today about 2025? What exactly is going on with digital identity in France? Well, it's a vast question. Obviously, France-Titres and first the Digital Identity Agency for France. I think we think it's important to remember that digital identity exists. Very simply, the government-backed digital identity program does exist. It's been not been always simple to put in place. The France's Interior Ministry has tried on several occasions, has made several attempts to launch a digitalized version of the identity card, or something equivalent to a digital identity wallet. AISM was the most recent one, but it ran up against a lot of obstacles and pitfalls. There's a real issue with user acceptability. So abandoning facial technology was an important step forward, but that was not very well accepted. Another important choice that we've learned from the experience of the past was to come up with a solution which is secure. We really insist on the importance of data protection, but we also look at adoption, about uptake, about making solutions which are acceptable and used. What does that mean? Well, it means that 2024, the 14th of February, to be precise, the date I can remember, the Interior Minister at the time launched France-Identité, which is a tool which allows you to register your national ID card on your telephone. You can use that. We now have digital driving licenses too, which is perhaps the first concrete incarnation of how you can use that as your telephone is an ID card. The idea of being able to use to identify yourself online more easily using the France Connect tool. And 2024 also was an election year, and our parliamentary elections were an opportunity for us to encourage uptake, because just in the case of a couple of weeks, actually, went from 500,000 to over 1 million users. Why? Well, because France Identity, thanks to the certification, the high-level security which we introduced, the highest level of security we've seen in the past, because we're talking about this. Guy mentioned about the European challenges. We'll talk about this a bit later in the day. But France was a little bit behind, really. It was lagging behind the current state of progress in years. But we made some giant leaps this year. We've really now achieved the highest level of security that we had past, which allowed us to use certified digital identity as a tool of identification system, which was then used for postal votes or representative votings, which without people having to do the old process, which involved them going to a police station. So that purpose was really useful in the political context of the elections that we had, and that really helped to demonstrate the utility of the digital identity. So we went from 500,000 to over 1 million users in the space of just a couple of weeks. So there's an acceleration. We understand things. There's the momentum that's building up, and the election obviously was a turning point, or at least a catalyst for this uptake. What are the current experiments are in place for 2025? So you want to know what to expect this year? Well, we're going to continue, obviously, with the rollout to encourage as many users as possible to be using their digital identities and for banking purposes, but also for France Identity, the system we have. There's a lot of sort of legwork to be done. It's not always visible to them, but it's about getting them out on there, to making the town halls and municipal services really encourage their citizens at local level to take up this digital identity. Giving people additional, increasing the workload, the burden placed on municipal authorities. It's not something that's always very well received, but it does work, and we've seen that from experience. So last week we noticed that 80%, I think 80% of municipal authorities now in France do offer a digital identity service, and they do offer a digital identity certification, and we're really proud to see that. So we're going to continue pushing that. We're going to continue until we're at 100% of town halls and consulates too, because French people living overseas, there are 2.7 million French people living overseas who need access to their French digital identity to access French governmental services from overseas. We'll continue deploying that through consulates. We're also going to continue offering new types of cards, new user experiences. We've got the vehicle registration scheme online. That's going to be added to your digital wallet. We talked a little bit about the European digital wallet. It's important that our citizens should have access to a government-backed wallet, a comprehensive wallet. So currently we have identity card and driving license. Very soon you'll be able to have your vehicle registration data in that digital wallet. We haven't mentioned, but another recent innovation is the Vital, the health access card, your health services card, the carte Vita, which is obviously important. France Identity is the only system currently across the whole of France that allows you to verify your identity and create a digital health services card, a Vital card. It was launched yesterday, wasn't it? Or maybe tomorrow even, but it really is right now. We are on the cusp of launching that digital health access card. So it really, there's a real strong demand for it. There's a real expectation for it, and it works very well, the system. So obviously that's it's a source of satisfaction for us in this period where obviously the government, public sector authorities are trying hard to simplify these services in the interest of users, but also to make savings. So digitalization of identity documents, accelerating digitalization of users securely is obviously a very important objective. And I also wanted to note, actually, we've seen a real uptick in the use of France Identity, the online service, since we have offered what we call France Identity without a password. It's a derivative digital identity which allows you to connect to France Connect without having to scan your ID card. And since we introduced that in the space of 2 months, we've doubled the number of user connections. And if you haven't already done it, I do invite you to test that service, because it's really quite addictive. It's extremely easy to use, and once again, it allows you to deal with a lot of the risks of phishing, spear phishing. It really helps to protect your identity. So, and when we talk about security, we talk about the fluidity of the user experience, which is ultimately which has gone down very well with users, I believe, and that facilitates uptake. And yes, absolutely, because having an ultra secure system, if no one uses it, then it's a bit of a waste of time. So we're constantly concerned with improving the user experience, that users, or citizens essentially, find it useful, that there's an application which is easy for them to use and which offers services which we're discovering along with them, because I think this is important to bear in mind, that we're not building a 5-year plan here. We're really learning as we go. We're listening to the feedback from users, the way in which they are getting to grips with our solutions, how they contribute to the way they work, the way they run, because a lot of us believe that the digitalized identity card But it turned out it's actually the driving license, which has been the biggest. Having your driving license on your telephone was actually, there was perhaps more demand, more of an expectation for that service. That was where the demand was from our users. And of course, you citizens, we're going to continue to evolve, because obviously it's a living, breathing thing, and society continues to evolve, and to identity and digital identity, the government-backed digital identity services are necessarily got a long history ahead of them. A couple of words about Europe very quickly, and then you're going to stay with us. We're going to continue talking about the introduction of the European Digital Identity Wallet, which once again is, in some respect, a challenge to member states, and challenging them to update their previous ways of doing things and models. What's the impact of the French government-backed identity service so far? How is that going to be compatible with Europe? Because obviously you're a bit of a driving force with all the consortiums that you're working with. Yes, well, we made the decision
de nous engager en étant effectivement, vous l'avez dit,
as you said, we're coordinator of the Potential project, which is one of the consortia, which has been set up about 2 years ago now. And that work continues, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot over the course of today. We have there's a new call for tenders that's gone out, new user functions. So we really are working in parallel between the solution, which is national, the French-based French solution, and that work we're doing at the same time at the European level, the EU level. We made the decision to.
Répondu à une interpellation.
Well, actually, we were responding to the demand that we felt from the industry, which I remember this clearly. It was 3 years ago now. It was a meeting we were having with the ACN, and they launched the challenge. They said, that's what to do. Say, okay, all right, what France is lagging behind it? France is not working collectively with between your companies and businesses and government are not working together effectively enough. So they set us that challenge, and I think we took it up. And I think I think we can be proud to say that we've made a success of that challenge. We've kept our promises. It's taking concrete form now, particularly in front of the background platform, an interoperability platform, which really is a very invaluable tool, which is now available to figures in the industry, to stakeholders from the identity community, so they can make sure that we are working, the wallets that we're creating are intercompatible, interoperable. It's a reality, and I think I'm sure some of you in the room were involved in the interoperability tests that were conducted really in real conditions in Warsaw just a couple of weeks ago, in fact, and that helped us to prove that they really did work. Our solutions that don't just work in theory, but really in concrete user situations. We did it with a whole series of user tests. We used our digital driving license, access to online services, so a whole series of prescriptions also, the whole series of different potential uses, which and that test will be continued because there's a new round of call for tenders. It's what we call the Aptitude program. The Aptitude program will be focusing more on identity verification at payment, so it's more about transaction, and we'll also be getting our vehicle registration documents online too. Now for us, and the digital identity, the wallet, it's also, it's an objective, but it's also already a reality, and we continue to develop and evolve, and the partnerships, of course, and co-construction with the industry, one of the partners is obviously an essential part of that. Thank you very much, Madame Baudoin, to answer these questions and to have given us some means of introduction, a way into the subject, subjects which we're going to explore in greater detail because you are going to be staying with us. And we have some other guests who are now going to join us to help us better understand the future, how its future is looking, the changes we can look forward to seeing in France. If you could help me to join, welcome to the stage, Romain Santi, Olivier van den Beek, Claire Lefoller-Bart, and Marie-Liane Lecbelly. Please join me on the stage.